And hello, everybody. The first stream from my new place. Let me know if the stream quality is okay, if you can hear me all right, that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm here on the other side of the country. Well, not that far away, but yeah, so far it's pretty nice. It's a lot greener here than I thought it was going to be. I mean, it's technically the prairies, but there's a lot of trees. I guess like half of Manitoba is boreal forest or something, and the other half is prairies. Rain, she had an okay plane ride. I don't think, enjoyed it very much, but eh, she managed to make it through somehow. So I gave her some gabapentin, and that seems to have just knocked her right out. So she's doing all right. Um, she's just running around. I've had to lock her out because at night she's been just running around, mewing really loud. Rain, do you want to give a mew for the audience? Okay. Well, rubbing against my arm is, I guess, kind of like a mew. It's cute at least. So, anyways, I've been wanting to do this for quite a while. I've just never gotten around to it. We're going to take a look at. This is probably my favorite, or one of my favorite HOI4 mods, the 1984 mod. So I think they did a really good job, especially considering there's not exactly a ton of lore to go on in the book. So they kind of expanded upon it a fair amount. So as you can see, we have the three superpowers, Oceania, Eurasia, and East Asia. How they decided to deal with the disputed areas is they are their own faction, who I call the Coalition of Free Nations. I think they're actually called the Brotherhood. Um, and how this works is 1984 is when the truce between the different superpowers will expire, and we will get a great war. I think about a year or two in, you're allowed to attack the free countries, but yeah, it's just kind of a giant mess. It's kind of the closest you get to really an arena style game in Hoi 4, just because you have three superpowers that have so much territory they can basically do anything. There's another mode of this that's kind of cool where it's divided, where if you wanted to play multiplayer with more people, I think each faction's divided up into like five sub powers. So there's, I think, 13 sectors. Grand Columbia is South America. Airstrip 1 is obviously England. And then the various Eurasias. So what I kind of find funny is so Ingsoc, Neo Bolshevism, and Death Worship are all exactly the same. They all have exactly the same focus tree, which I think is funny. Um, and otherwise, I think they're pretty well balanced in terms of resources. I think East Asia has more population. I think Eurasia might start with more. Let me just take a look. So Oceania starts with tag PCR, tag PRC. I think yeah, Eurasia I think starts with a little bit more um, population. Eurasia I think has a little more industry. Although I think they tried as best as they could to balance this. Now the reality of the game is Oceania has by far the best start position because the only real areas that they can be attacked to any great degree is the southern half of Africa and Great Britain. And Great Britain is fairly easy to defend because it's an island. and they can kind of focus all of their soldiers into southern Africa, and they don't start off near either of the other great powers. All they start off fighting free Africa. I guess the downside to that is, you know, what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna boost the free nations a bit. One of my issues with HOI4 is I just find construction speed is really slow. So I tend to use a mod to speed it up. For the AI as well as myself, I find otherwise you never will get like motorized significant numbers of motorized or mechanized or tanks, and you can't really build significant amounts of infrastructure the way it goes normally. So I'd say Eurasia's. It's hard to say who has the second best start position. East Asia has the unique ability to attack three of the, or I guess two really, of the disputed zones exclusively, and they can also attack Free Arabia. But they also have the challenge of getting hit on both sides if they can't knock Free India and Free Indochina out. So yeah, I think Oceania has the best starting position. It's kind of hard to hit their core territories over in North America. I think it's interesting that they picked Denver to be the capital, because in the book Oceania doesn't have a capital, but this is HOI4, so obviously they need to have a capital, so that's it. Are you ever going to stream Vicky 2? I don't really see the need to stream Vicky 2, to be honest. It's kind of a bit old at this point in time, and I don't know. The combat in that game is just really bad, to be honest. So we're going to take a look at the focus tree. So we have the Ministry of Plenty, Liberate the Free, which I love. This game has a lot of good dark humor. That's enjoyable. So let's see here. If anyone has any like questions they want to ask me or anything, go ahead. Otherwise, it's just a comfy stream. Rain's sitting on my desk, staring at me. I haven't played the Red Flood mod. Does the Red Flood mod even work? Because I remember I tried it and it didn't load. Paradox are such cocksuckers with how often they like release updates that break all the mods. Denver was picked because of the Hunger Games. Okay, that sounds plausible. I also think it makes sense as it's just an arbitrary location. Like it doesn't really make sense for it to be Denver, but that's kind of part of the point. Whereas Eurasia has the like traditional Russian. I think it's the capital's Moscow. 1 second. I just have a call coming in. Sorry about that. That was just a delivery. Someone delivered my uh someone was just delivering my coffee machine, which is very important. I got my bed replaced today. So the base for my bed broke, I think about it broke I think it was within an hour of me lying down on it, like the stand that my mattress was on, and I went like crashing through it in the middle of the night. And I think Rain was like traumatized because she hid for like the rest of the night. So yeah, I've been kind of sleeping on the floor for the last like 4 days until they could come and give me a replacement. So, what kind of coffee machine? So I was using a Keurig with reusable pods, but it just makes like the weakest, most disgusting coffee. So I just got like a standard Black and Decker um, drip coffee maker. So, so it's good. I haven't looked at My Blood Alone yet. Partially, I just don't want it to do that. Your bed broke. Take a look at this Sex Master. Well, it's the stand broke. I don't know if they fucked up when they were installing it or whatever it is. Okay, Ministry of Plenty. We're gonna go with Concrete Jungles next. So the minor countries all get two research slots, whereas $400 Keurig, I got it for $100 a couple years back. It works okay when you're using like pre-made pods. I found those expensive, so I got reusable ones, which are basically just mini filters, and I put like Folgers or whatever in them. But it just makes really weak, disgusting coffee, and I just can't take it anymore. It's just too much. What do I think of perennial philosophers? Like, here's the thing, and this is just kind of the way I think, and some people might find it kind of crude and provincial. Rene Guenon converted to Islam, and that, like, as far as I'm concerned, just kind of makes me dismiss him. And Evola was a fucking weirdo. Um, Evola was a really weird dude. Like how he would walk around. What was it? He would walk around during like air raids when air raids were going on in Germany, contemplating his destiny, and like he got hit by a bomb and was like paralyzed for the rest of his life. I don't know. I don't really like. I just find a lot of it a meme, to be honest. Uh oh, a DSP reference. Okay. Do they have Nescafe Gold in Canada? I've wanted to try some in the U.S., but I haven't seen in stores. I don't know. I'm cheap, so I normally just buy like Folgers or Maxwell House, or if it's on sale, I'll get McDonald's. I actually like the McDonald's brand coffee quite a bit, so I'll get that if it's on sale. I've also been trying a what's it called again? I've been trying Tycoon, and it's frustrating because there's a lot of like potential in the game. I find it very difficult, and I'm not sure if the difficulty is actually due to difficulty or me being stupid, or just that basic parts of the gameplay don't really function very well. And that's the reason why I find it so challenging. Like I said, I'm not really sure though. Oh, it was in Italy that he got his legs broken. So, I mean, so when it comes to perennialism, I guess you could say I'm a semi-perennialist. I think Catholicism, by its nature, is semi-perennialist in that it acknowledges that all religions contain varying amounts of truth, but lack the fullness of truth that only came from divine revelation from God. Because you can determine a lot of fundamental aspects of the universe from just reason, and from just thinking about them or contemplating them or stuff like that. And that is so there's aspects of religious truth that are present in, well, like I said, all religions in all time periods. But They aren't that. An interesting argument I heard once for the Trinity that's kind of one I hadn't really thought of is that Christianity, that the Trinity is so counterintuitive that it kind of has to come from divine revelation. So if you think about it, okay, so stuff like there being one creator God, um, that was that was that's pretty straightforward. That's kind of something easy to come up with. That makes sense. Stuff like the worship of nature, stuff like personifying the various aspects as deities, that makes sense. A lot of aspects of it make sense. I don't really know where the Trinity would come from other than divine revelation. It's just really strange and counterintuitive and odd in that sort of thing. So I don't know if that's convincing. I just thought that was an interesting point that I'd never really considered before. So I like to go motorized infantry. For someone who's played HOI4 more than me, what is the point of tanks? I can never figure out what the point of tanks is because it just seems they're too expensive to field in large numbers. Like in order to make like more than a couple divisions out of them, and I don't really see them as being that much more effective than mechanized infantry or even just motorized divisions with a bunch of like artillery. Like I don't really get what the point is of having a tank division when for the same amount you could have a full motorized division with like two attachments of artillery and like one of anti-tank and one of anti-air, which probably has more overall firepower. It's just something I don't really get. I mean, maybe it does make sense. I'm just not thinking about it properly, but yeah. So, yeah, I have my production line set up. Cheap tanks are good against the AI, but mainly you use them in MP. I always kind of want to use heavy tanks as infantry support role. I just find heavy tanks are so expensive you can't even like attach a brigade of them to most a lot of your infantry. You just run out of them. I know I do what you're not supposed to do, in which I only use one infantry division template. It's just that I don't know. I'm too lazy to manage a whole bunch. I just have a standard infantry template, and then a standard garrison template, and a standard mechanized or motorized infantry template. I just find that simpler. Once again, I know that's suboptimal, and you're really not supposed to do that, but I don't know. I also put a lot more artillery in my divisions than most people see. A lot of heart attack and piercing. Yeah, but I feel like I don't know. Is anti tank just not that good? Because like I find the AI doesn't really use tanks because tanks are. I guess if you could get a significant number of tanks, because of their armor, they're hard to damage. But at the same time, tanks are so expensive. I don't really get the point in producing them over just producing more. Like if it's a choice between making like six tank divisions or giving every infantry unit in my army an extra brigade of artillery, I tend to just prefer to do that. In games, do you think gameplay is king or does the game need a good story? That's a tricky one. When I was younger, I was a bit more into story. As I've gotten older, I've kind of lost a bit of my patience for it. I don't quite have the patience to sit through long stories that I used to. I still acknowledge that it's very important. I generally am kind of more concerned with, or maybe it's better to say, what's it called again? atmosphere and background lore, I guess, are kind of what's the most important to me. Uh, which is kind of something I like about FromSoft games is there's not really a story, which I think they could kind of have, but there's a lot of like lore and background. My major issue is just a lot of it is too subjective and too vague on purpose. And that's kind of one of my issues. I get that it's kind of a feature, not a bug, but I often find that kind of more irritating than interesting. So I think the thing with cutscenes is I remember back when like full motion cutscenes were like starting to be a big thing. Like I remember back when PS like 3 was coming out and Xbox 360 was coming out and all this other stuff was coming out. Um, this is a really tough one. Okay, so there's victory goods which reduces consumer good factory usage by 15%, which is massive. And there's state capitalism which increases max factories per state by 25%. And in this mod you run out of space really quick. I remember whichever one I pick, I get pissed off. So let me see here. Consciousness of man, more equal than others, less is more. Uh, it looks like I have enough production at the moment. So I think I will go with um, state capitalism. Okay, good. I switched that to construction. Yeah, but yeah, so cutscenes were a really big deal back in the day. Part of it was just because the graphics in game were so bad. I find this funny, free-ish thought for research bonus, but it increases the Brotherhood's gain. Let's see here. Emmanuel Goldstein. The Brotherhood is an in-game faction. They're just stuck in like the Fuhrer bunker, and they aren't allowed to move, just so that they can be present and be the head of the Coalition of Free Nations. But yeah, like the in-game just used to look like shit, and you'd see a cutscene, and it was just this incredible thing that was fascinating. I think a lot of us have just kind of got cynical and jaded when it comes to like just the quality of the stuff. Like stuff I feel that used to make people go, "Wow, that's the most awesome thing." Like I remember back, for instance, when I was playing Tales of Symphonia, I would like rewatch the cutscenes a bunch of times. Part of it is we're just spoiled by the internet. So if we don't unlock a cutscene, we could just go online and watch it, or that sort of thing. But like when I was playing Tales of Symphonia, I didn't know what people actually looked like, and I was able to go on and uh, and it was cool to see that. So I would watch the opening a bunch. I remember like for Bond games, I would often watch the opening. So it was kind of cool to see like the CG. But generally speaking, yeah, it's kind of an issue. Uh, research multi-role. I need to go down the. Once I'm done with this, I just did that first because that's the most important one to get the additional construction slots. Then I'll go back and start doing the ones that give me more manpower. Because I have 300 million people, but I have very little in terms of actual manpower at the moment. Because I'm stuck at, I think, like 1% or so of the population. Also, you start off without female conscription. You have to complete a focus tree to get female conscription, which doubles your manpower. So, that's nice. The green economy. What do you make the green economy push right now? Scam to make money or retards who don't understand agriculture like Mao? I don't really know that much about green agriculture. The green movement is like one of the great disappointments. Just how shitty it is. Because theoretically, I should like it. I agree with a lot of the principles and what they're theoretically trying to do. It's just like the gayest shit, and it's full of just communists and social justice warriors. And part of the issue is none of them actually care about the environment. They just hate humans. I mean, that's what it comes down to. They just hate civilization, they hate people, and they want them to suffer. The actual, any sort of care or concern for the environment is very much a secondary or even tertiary priority. Because, like, for instance, they're against nuclear power. And nuclear power doesn't produce carbon emissions. And then they'll bring up the problems with nuclear power, but it's like they don't want to try to resolve them. You know what I mean? About California banning the sale of gasoline cars by 2035. So in my course I'm doing, we did a big one. Our last exam for my master's was a we did like intensive about green technology. The green vehicle industry is actually further along than I thought it was. They're actually starting in Canada at least to put in significant amounts of infrastructure, like charging infrastructure and stuff like that. I've always thought the only real way to reduce carbon emissions was to switch to an electric economy. The problem I've always had with electric cars isn't with electric cars themselves, because I do think it's a good idea. It's I wasn't confident that A, the batteries lasted long enough, um, B, that there was an infrastructure to actually use it, to actually practically use them, and three, uh, what was I saying? Three. I mean, there's the expense, like people can't afford them. There's just some issues with it. I really like the idea, and I do think electric cars are the future. I'm just not sure if they're cheap enough yet to be affordable to the average person. I We were talking about there's like concerns now that there's going to be lithium wars in the future between different countries over uh, well, obviously access to like lithium and stuff like that. I think Australia controls most of the world's supply of lithium, but the idea of there being like conflicts over it in the same way there is over uh, oil is kind of scary. It's also kind of gay, but that it is what it is. Does anyone here have an opinion on Louis Royale? Because now that I'm living in Manitoba, they talk about him a lot. So on one hand, it's kind of cringy because he is like an indigenous, and they portray him as like a proto social justice warrior and uh, like an anti-white hero. But if you read like what he was at like ultra Catholic, like a Catholic like supremacist, and most of the actual stuff he says is kind of based, um, and things like that. Like he forgave the judge who condemned him to death, um, and just a lot of the other stuff he said was kind of based. So of course that part of his legacy is always left out. I mean, I wonder what I wonder what he would have thought about like what they use his image for nowadays. If him being used to promote like homosexuality, it would be something that he'd be down with. It's something you always gotta wonder. As far as electricity goes, hydro is by far, in my opinion, the best. You just, at the moment at least, well, it depends on the country. So, Ontario gets, I believe, most of its power from hydro. And there's a number of countries in the world that get, I think, close to 100% of their electricity from hydro. Um, but, yeah. But it's not practical for everybody. I keep seeing stuff about molten salt reactors and thorium power. It's a bit like fusion power, where it's always like 20 years away, and it's always they're almost about to have a breakthrough about it or about to implement it, but they never really quite get there. Is kind of how I find with a lot of that stuff. Okay, let's see here. I need some more factories. So I'm probably going to get some crap for that because most of the audience is American. I'm not that pro car, at least not as much as I used to be. I do think they've done a lot of environmental damage, but also just a lot of like social damage. It's led to like just cities sprawling out forever, which I think is an inefficient use of land. It leads to extremely long commutes. I think it does lead to a breakdown in communities. It is an excessive use of fossil fuels and other resources. I don't know. I personally prefer living in a denser environment where I could just walk places. I do think a lot of the obesity problem in America is honestly probably just caused by the fact that a lot of Americans just drive everywhere. And if they were able to like walk more places, they probably would be significantly less fat. But the thing is, the way that North American cities are laid out, that's just not possible in a lot of cases. Um, which I think is a problem, but we have issues with pathway dependency. We have issues where the left is against public transit because it doesn't punish drivers in as much. It's fucking weird in Ontario because in Ontario the conservatives are pro subways and the left is anti subway. So also just no one's willing to like actually do it. And with all the environmental assessments and the other nonsense you have to do to actually get subways dug or to actually try to produce things, it's just I don't think a lot of people just even want to bother with doing that shit anymore. But well, yeah, I mean, cause if you're rural, you're rural. I just you think people should live near where they work, near the black people? Yeah, well, I guess because I live in Canada, it's a little different. So I'd be living near like Indians and Chinese and stuff like that. Even in dense areas in Finland, we have fad as electric scooters and fast food are common. I know, but I don't think the obesity rate in Finland is nearly as high. Um, I think the only countries that are higher than America are like maybe the Gulf states and Mexico. I think Mexico might actually be the highest in the world, if memory serves. Fuck. Let's see daily rallies. Hmm. National lockdown, consciousness of man. But yeah, I kind of don't like the fetishization of cars. I think it is an issue. It's something you can't address because Americans get really, um, it's something you can't talk about. It's like the vaccine. It's not like, there. It's like guns. There's a lot of things that just are culturally ingrained in American psyche that just I don't think outsiders can really understand if you don't come from that culture. So it's just kind of an unbridgeable cultural divide um, for people who come from other parts of the world. No, well, overall, Jenny, that's my point. My point is you're stuck with a chicken or the egg problem in North America because the cities were built around the concept of it being a car city. So everything is just spread out and sprawled out like to everywhere possible. Well, at the same time, it's kind of complicated. Basically, the sprawl is generating sprawl. Um, is kind of how it works. It's this vicious cycle, and then in Canada, a big issue is just immigration. So every urban center, as bad as the sprawl is, they basically will just force more and more people into a tiny area um, because we're committed to having 100 million people by the end of the century. And it just makes things exponentially worse. And I don't know realistically what can really be done um, about it at the point in time. This country's just fucked. Like, it's just. I don't know what to say. I define Canada as like the last Western country that's rich enough to be stupid. This country's just so rich in terms of natural resources, land, all kinds of stuff, while having a small population, that it's hard to fuck things up. There's also the issue where most of our immigrants are like Chinese or Indians who actually are economically productive, so you don't have the same issues that Europe does. Like in France, France is like probably gonna if there's one country that's probably gonna collapse at some point, it's gonna be France. But Canada doesn't have any of those doesn't have the same problems because, like I said, most of our immigrants are from China or India, and they don't normally act like Algerians do. So or sub-Saharan Africans. Although they're really big on trying to bring Somalis in. That's like a big goal is to just bring in a bunch of Somalis. So yeah, that's my point. Is there's nothing you can really do about it. That being said, I don't get why in urban areas that are dense we can't build more public transportation because there seems to be like a resistance to even trying to address it to the degree that's possible. So I guess it's just too big a job. I know when I was for one of my courses, I had to look at a municipal issue, and I chose to look at public transit in Toronto. And what I found is public transit in Toronto is so underfunded, and it's been underfunded for so long that even if you could impose a municipal income tax, a municipal um, sales tax, which is unconstitutional and you can't do. If you were to impose like double property taxes and double user and all this other stuff, it would still only be like half of what is needed to fix public transit in Toronto. Not even like build anything else, but just to fix the backlog of repairs. It's physically impossible no matter how much like taxes are raised to actually address any of the outstanding issues. So I guess in that perspective, they just don't really see any reason to try to resolve it because there's it's more or less nothing they can do at this point in time. to get anywhere with it. And a lot of places are like that, but it is what it is. And then cities that have developed public transit systems, I don't think have like done anything with them. Like, isn't New York complete shit now? Like, I remember when I was there, all the subways were just filthy and disgusting. The tube in London was like one of the most rundown things I've ever seen. I was actually kind of shocked by how bad it was when I was there. Serp was saying that they're trying to flood Montana with Somalis and Afghan refugees. Like he's starting to have to deal with them. They have to like find the reddest, like whitest states they can and just flood them. I mean, it is a form of like, well, it's a form of ethnic genocide, but let's be real. It was kind of interesting. So I was at the Human Rights Museum the other day because my mother really wanted to go, and I didn't want to tell her no because she'd help me out moving across the country and stuff. And the museum was built during the Harper era, so it was built by boomer cons. So it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Um, it mostly focused on like Nazism, communism, and like MLK and stuff like that. It didn't really get into much just like completely just shitting on white people stuff. It was more just like they mentioned the Holodomor and the Armenian genocide and stuff like that, which I was kind of shocked because I thought you couldn't even mention the Holodomor. I thought that was just completely not allowed at this point in time. So I was kind of impressed by that, that could even be brought up. So, of course, they have a bunch of stuff. Someone was saying that my recent video was trolling. They literally had a like a plaque there that said race doesn't exist. That there is no biological difference between people. So I don't really get what people are saying when they say, "Oh, they believe in evolution. They just only believe in it. They just don't think it's like as much as like scientific racists do." I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I kind of feel like it's a horseshoe theory thing, because like you have like Christian fundamentalists who don't believe in evolution and support young Earth creationism. Uh, yeah, but this was built. This museum was built like 10 years ago. So at the time, I think it was very controversial. To yeah, deal with that. Yeah, so you have like the like yeah, you have kind of a horseshoe theory on that. Let's see here. The building, I have some. If people want, I'll do a video going over the pictures I took in it because it was just like pure cringe. The building itself is the. Let me pull up a picture of the building. Okay, before I pull this up, just everybody, like, if you make sure you're not eating. If you have a queasy stomach, uh, you might not want to look at this. It might make you vomit, and I'm only somewhat joking when I say that. Okay, so this is. I don't even know how much money the government spent on this, but this is the Human Rights Museum. This is the Canadian Museum of Human Rights. Look at that. Look at that gorgeous monstrosity. Like, it's a shit stain. It's a shit. It's so. Oh, it's so ugly looking. It's like how the Museum of Civilization in Ottawa also looks like shit. It's like another Guggenheim-esque thing. Let me see here. So let me find some pictures of what it looks like inside it. It looks like something from Event Horizon or something from what's that thing called again? Hellraiser. It looks like something from Hellraiser or something from some sort of chaos dimension. The inside of it is. It's like the least efficient use of space I've ever seen. I don't know what like the thought process was when they were building this. So this is another shot of the inside. So the office workers who work there have their desks completely exposed to the people at the museum. So like if they have something open on their screen, people can just look over and watch it. Um, it's just, oh. You're right. It does look like a 1980s dystopian movie set. So there they have the one washroom for both genders. So if you're a woman, you get to go to the washroom with males. So I mean that's cool. That's cool. I know if I was a father, I'd want my daughter to go to the bathroom next to dudes. Let's see here. I know this is like a really like BoomerCon talking point, but in my experience, I'm always surprised by how much liberals care about politics relative to conservatives. Like almost most of the people I know who aren't like dissident right or committed ideologues who have ended like personal relationships over politics or liberals. I don't even think I know any conservatives who have done that, like in real life. I mean, I don't really know any conservatives, period, real life. But I've never even really heard a story about like some conservative saying, like you're like a statist, I'm not gonna be your friend anymore. Like I just does that happen? I mean it must happen. I just can't really I don't know if I've ever really heard an example of that. Uh to be honest. I mean theoretically it does, but and I mean, like, they've done studies on this. Democrats are like three times more likely to end relationships over political disagreements than Republicans are. It might even be more than that. It's not even close, actually, in terms of how it goes. Let's see. We're going to start Ministry of Love. So, Dennis Prager's theory of modern art, which is one that I actually think is interesting, is that the purpose of modern art is to democratize beauty. Because the issue is that classical art was very technical. There was an understanding that not just anyone could be an artist. There was certain rules to create art. Once again, not there was not everybody could be an artist. Not everyone could um, had that innate talent, and because of that, um, they have to make this like shitty stuff that basic like it's when you get down to why they idealize stuff like the kids' finger paintings. It's because to democratize beauty, they have to make it so literally anybody and their mother could have drawn it. Is the explanation he came up with, which I think is an interesting one. Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's not the case. But I think there's something to that. Let's see here. Am I producing? No, I'm not producing enough. I need some more military factories. Oh, I guess I built all the ones I had on the stack. Which reminds me, I wonder what Michael Savage is doing these days. I miss Michael Savage back when I used to listen to him. Michael Savage was just so insane. And I don't mean his political views, I just mean the way he acted. Like, he was kind of like almost like proto Alex Jones with how much he yelled about stuff like that. Like, he would just yell about. I remember when Michael Jackson yelled, he was just playing like Vivaldi really loud and just screaming about it. So someone was asking how the move went. Okay, so this country's become like a third world shithole. I had to fly here out of Toronto, out of Pearson Airport. It's just so fucking shitty. So I brought Rain with me, and if you're flying with a cat, you have to call ahead and register your cat, and you have to pay an extra fee because I don't know why you have to pay an extra fee. It's not like bringing a cat on a plane makes them have to do anything that they wouldn't actually have to not do otherwise. So it basically just doesn't. You're just paying them for nothing. But because you're bringing a cat on the plane, you have to check in once you get to the airport. See, everything's been automated, or a lot of it's been automated. So you're supposed to just check in using like a kiosk, and then you get your boarding pass, and then you go to the security line. So they don't really have many people who are handing out, like working the counters. So I had to wait in line to get my boarding pass because I had Rain with me, and basically I waited in line for an hour, and they had one person on there, one person on standby. Uh, actually, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. I'm a little retarded today. Yeah, they only had one person who was dealing with the stuff. So it took about an hour. There was all these just. I don't know if any of you have had to deal with Chinese people. Chinese people are just extremely rude, and they don't respect things like lines. So So they just were butting in line, and if anyone tried to tell them, like, look, we've been waiting here for hours, you can't do that, they just sneer at them and basically say, we have to go ahead of you to make China economy strong is kind of the attitude. So we found this, like, nice German Canadian employee, and he was just like, this situation's fucked. I'm just going to ring you guys in on a separate terminal. I don't know why everybody's in the same security line. You guys have your flight soon, so I'm just gonna find I'm gonna find a more logical security line for you. I'm gonna put you in that security line, and I'm gonna ring in your cat, and that's gonna resolve the situation. So he was able to just kind of resolve the situation. And that was nice. So we were able to get on the plane, but it was very close. I got there about 2.5 to 3 hours early for a domestic flight, and I barely got on the plane in time. It was almost a photo finish. I don't know what the experiences you've all had flying domestically. That just doesn't seem normal to me because I think what they did is the airlines fired everybody during COVID, and now they have an issue where they have no trained staff. So it's just a massive shit show, and they really don't have any way of dealing with it. Okay, I'm just getting my infrastructure up and running. Fuck. One of the things I kind of irritates me about HOI4 is I feel like there's just not enough resources in the world. In particular, if you want to like have, I don't know if it's like 3 or 4 um, if you want to have like 10 battleships being constructed at once, there's sometimes not enough metal in the entire world uh, to doing with it. Um, to actually build that many. Because I remember whenever I play like vanilla Hoi 4, even as America, you don't have the resources to mass produce ships. You run out of them, and you cannot. There's not enough countries in the world you can trade with to get enough steel, and that's obviously not what happened in real life. And I get that Hoi 4 isn't supposed to be realistic, but it just seems really dumb. So one of the mods I have is resource factories. So they're extremely expensive, but they produce resources. And they kind of had to put it in just because otherwise, I don't know, it just doesn't work. So the other superpowers have started their wars. I've been holding off a bit because it's not as if I really need any of the resources of the disputed zone. I don't really need the population. I seem to have enough slots at the moment. The maybe some of the minerals might be helpful, like if there's iron or rubber there, but I don't think there is enough there to really justify it at the moment. So, okay, surveillance state, liberate the free. I'm just going to start off though because I think I have enough. Now I'm going to redo my infantry division in my half-assed way. So we're going to add artillery. I don't know. I just like having like every support company. I know once again you're probably not supposed to do this, but I don't know. I kind of rather just have infantry divisions that just kind of have overwhelming quality and qualitative advantage, particularly when it comes to firepower. Let's go with offensive doctrine. We're not producing any motorized equipment. I guess I'm not producing any motorized equipment because I don't have any rubber. So let's start producing more synthetic rubber, but we can attack Africa. I probably need to start building an air force at some point in time, but I always find air forces are just really expensive and really kind of unnecessary. So it looks like I made a wise decision because I waited so long to enter the war. It looks like Free Africa didn't put very many units to try to stop me. So I am going to move up my... Where's my mechanized infantry? I thought I... Oh, okay. All right. You guys go there. Right, I haven't actually produced any much mechanized equipment yet. Or enough motorized equipment. Okay, so I'll just focus on getting the rubber up and running. Do I have enough support equipment? Yeah, I can probably tone down the support equipment. I'll keep artillery Okay. Reasonably high. All right. Cool. But yeah, it looks like I'm blowing through Africa pretty quick, which will be... I mean, it's something. It's something. Remove consciousness of man. Okay, so it looks like the war is going well. Let's see what's in the chats. I don't really want to go through each Balkan nation. I like most of the Balkan nations other than like Bosnia and Albania. Um, I don't really know what else to say. I don't have very strong feelings about most of them. I've never heard anything good about Albanians, I'll say that much. So, yeah, there's still a mask requirement in Canada. You have to wear a mask while you're at the airport and while you're flying, which, to be somewhat fair, airplanes are filthy and disease factories. And given the number of people I know who got sick off of flying an airplane even before COVID, I can't really. Probably wearing a mask on an airplane is a good idea, anyways. They are not the nicest places in the world. I fucking hate flying, though. I just find it really stressful because the security is scary because you can get pulled aside at any point in time. When I was going through security, they made me take Rain out of her carrier and like hold her. Because they had to put her carrier through the the X-ray scanner to make sure I wasn't hiding whatever on in it. I wasn't hiding a bomb in her kitty carrier. And she was freaked out and she was trying to get away from me. And I could only imagine if Rain had have gotten away from me, like the middle of Pearson Airport, she would have just ran and hid. And I never would have found her. I mean, to be fair, like, I kind of wanted to run and hide myself. But, yeah. Flying sucks. Although I honestly every time I've never really had a bad experience at an American airport. Pearson's like always a shit show. Um, Pearson's always a shit show. LAX wasn't that bad when I was there. Denver International Airport was nice, even if it looks like an Illuminati tent. What other areas are there? There's Denver. There's that. Chicago was nice. Chicago wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. Uh, at Gatwick, they delayed my plane by like 6 hours. But other than that, it was okay. Charles de Gaulle wasn't bad. I'm trying to think what other airports have I gone. I don't really remember much about Leonardo da Vinci, but I remember it being an okay. It was an okay airport. It wasn't bad. In Italy, obviously. I've been reading an interesting book. I don't know if I'll do a video on it because I don't really know how to do a video, like how it would be structured. But I've been reading a really long book about the mafia. called The Five Families: The Rise, Decline, and Resurgence of the American Mafia. It's really fascinating. I'm enjoying it a lot. I didn't really know anything about the American Mafia, so it's kind of interesting to just kind of get that perspective about all that kind of stuff. Like I had heard some of these people, I heard of some of these crime families, but I didn't really know any particular detail about that. My worst overseas experience. Yeah, if you look at the Wikipedia articles on the Mafia, literally half of them are just direct quotes taken from this book. Like the parts about being a soldier or a made man are taken just directly from it. Like just directly copied. One of my issues with a lot of people's videos on YouTube is people who do lore channels. A lot of them, and I know I'm guilty of this, but I don't do this professionally, and I like to think I'm at least somewhat creative. Like people will complain that I draw conclusions and say stuff that's not explicit in the canon of something because I'm trying to be interesting. Like I find a lot of people will just literally there was one video I was thinking of doing like a response to where they were talking about the Terran Dominion from StarCraft, and literally the video was just direct quotes from cutscenes. It wasn't even from the wiki, it just was stuff from cutscenes, like from Manx's speeches. There was no attempt at like analysis or drawing conclusions or trying to be interesting. It's just like the lowest effort, just kind of nonsense. Like it's really annoying. Like at least try to be interesting. At least try to like make some comparisons to some real world examples. Try to extrapolate from missing data, that sort of thing. We don't have hurricanes in Canada. At least I don't think so. No, I think we sometimes will have remnants of hurricanes, but never really been caught in a hurricane. I've only been to a couple. I've only been to Florida a couple times. I think that's the only place I've been to that actually has hurricanes. Europe doesn't have them. Canada doesn't have them. Yeah, the book mentioned Murder Inc. Um, the original Murder Inc., not the one that Jay Z came up with. I'll say this about Jay Z: he's kind of a scumbag, but I do kind of respect him as a businessman. He did make like a massive empire off of his music. Thoughts on LA Noir? LA Noir is kind of a flawed masterpiece. There's a lot of aspects of LA Noir that's really good. I just feel it. I don't like how it threw Cole Phelps under the bus. Like, I felt like it just made him into, like, I don't know. I just feel like it really shit on him unnecessarily in the last act when you start getting into what happened back in Japan. Um, which I didn't really like. Um, Also, I don't think Phelps's Cole's breakdown of his relationship with his wife and why that broke down was really explained particularly well. I thought it might have they should have had a little more lead up to it. Like some scenes of him trying to talk about work with his wife and his wife just like refusing to talk about it with him, or some other signs that they had like a really unhappy marriage. Um, Also, I kind of it kind of irritates me that they just dropped LA Noir and then there was never a sequel or some another game in kind of that vein. I don't know if it was because LA Noir wasn't like a financial success or something like that, but I think it's something that really cried for a follow up or for a series of like detective style games. I admit, and this is a very Argent gamer moment, When I played LA Noir, I didn't realize you could back out of things. Like I didn't realize you could like propose a like you could press or present evidence or something and then back out from it after someone after seeing what Phelps said and what the reaction was. So I played 90% of the game where I would just confirm whatever the first option was I chose was. So I kind of fucked up a lot when I was playing it, and that impacted my enjoyment a lot. Because there are a lot of times where it's really not obvious what you're supposed to do. Um, I do have American Psycho, the book. I did start it, I just haven't gone through it yet. I kind of. I don't really. I kind of dislike when movie memes are being used by people who never saw the movie. Like I kind of hate all of the American Psycho memes that like Groypers and Zoomers are using about Sigma mindset when none of them have actually like seen the movie or know what it's about or anything. I don't know. It's just always something that bothers me. It's just if you're going to be like making it a core part of your identity, at least watch the movie that you're using to make a core part of your identity. I guess I'm just not a real human being, though. Real human being and a real hero. American Psycho has a lot of great moments. My favorite moment, though, is like his speech where he goes through the like the list of what he believes, and he has like all this contradictory stuff, and it's just every like boilerplate lame generic statement possible. That was pretty funny. The business card scene was pretty funny. It was a pretty good deconstruction of like yuppie or I'd say it's more of a deconstruction of like oven middle class culture. Just because I know growing up like in an upper middle class neighborhood, I knew a lot of people who were like the main character in that, and like his friends in that. So, yeah. Have I played the first Deus Ex? No. The first Deus Ex is just kind of too old for me. I know that's a lame thing to say, but it's just the graphics are too old, the controls are too old. I just could never get into it. I did love Human Revolution. Human Revolution was one of those games where I didn't like it the first time I played it, but coming back to it like years later, I absolutely loved it. Deus Ex Human Revolution was really good. Mankind Divided, I don't think was very good. I just don't think the setting was that interesting. I don't think it did as much with it as the original did. I kind of didn't like that all the characters from the first game just kind of disappeared, other than Adam Jensen, aka Batman. I'm Adam Jensen. I'm Batman. This is kind of how he talks. But there's a lot of things I liked about it. I like the RPG. I like RPG FPSs, and that was a really good RPG FPS. So yeah, I enjoyed uh, Deus Ex, Human Revolution, and Mankind Divided. It's just too bad because Mankind Divided did poorly, so we're probably never going to get a conclusion to the trilogy. Which kind of sucks because I kind of like to see where the story goes after Mankind Divided. One of the things I liked about Human Revolution is I could see myself choosing any of the endings. Like the Illuminati aren't particularly evil, at least in that game. So I could see myself siding with them. I could see myself siding with. Plus, what they wanted was pretty reasonable to have augments, but to keep them regulated and to try to only use them for like good rather than starting an arms race. Uh, oh, speaking of our shooter RPGs, have you played Alpha Protocol? Yeah, Alpha Protocol is fucking amazing. It's really sad that no one played Alpha Protocol and no one like referenced it or no one made a sequel to it. Because Alpha Protocol was really good. The fact that they even made a Mass Effect clone, let alone a Mass Effect clone that's like an espionage game, um, was was an interesting choice. But I liked it a lot. Um, I liked that it wasn't. It was kind of politically incorrect at parts. Um, I thought it had an interesting story. I thought it had interesting levels. Uh, the gameplay was kind of cool. I think they described it that you were based off of three different gameplay styles. There was going to be like there's a Bond gadget style, a Matt Damon martial arts style, and like a Jack Bauer I'm Batman gun blazing style. But yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit. Once again, I'm sad that there's no Alpha Protocol too. Um, Mankind Divided was just kind of a mess. Like it's not like it was bad or anything. It was just kind of a mess. Mankind Divided's a bit like what is it? Cyberpunk 2077. It's too bad. So Cyberpunk 2077 it's almost a really good game. It's almost there. It just has a lot of fundamental flaws that kind of don't make it a great game, but it's frustrating because with a little more effort, they really could have made something special. They just didn't. My biggest single issue with what's it called with Cyberpunk 2077 is that I don't like how they did level scaling. So the amount of damage you do to enemies and the amount of damage you take is more based on what level you are relative to them than the actual damage done by any of your weapons. So you can have a weapon that does 10,000 base damage, but if you're shooting an enemy that's levels higher than you, um, it'll do uh, I don't know, like 5,000 damage. But if you shoot an enemy that's okay, if you shoot an enemy that's five levels higher than you, you'll do like 2,000 damage. If you're the same level as them, but you've taken none of the perks that increase your offensive damage, you'll do like 8,000 damage to them. So it's based on that, and I just found that very frustrating when I was trying to play the game to have to deal with that. So that was kind of my issue with it. Like I was trying to do the Don't Fear the Reaper ending, and I couldn't do it. And I get that it's supposed to be hard, but the reason I couldn't do it wasn't because of the actual difficulty. It was because of the fucking level scaling that made it almost impossible to do unless you had grinded a whole bunch. Because I had really, really good equipment and I had all the like perks I needed for my build, but I couldn't use them because of the way that the gameplay was set up. I was incapable of using any of the stuff. Okay, let's see here. Mankind Divided. But yeah, like I said, there's a lot of good aspects to Cyberpunk. It's just that there was also a lot of bad aspects to it. So I guess you can't have it all, or in the case of that game, have it any. Well, I mean, once again, Mankind Divided isn't a bad game by any means. I just think it was unfocused. I think it was unfocused, and I don't think it was very good compared to the first one. I think I'd say, like, Human Revolution to me is like a 9.5 out of 10, and Mankind Divided is like an 8 out of 10. So I'd still say it's good. It's definitely far above the average, especially for like bloated AAA games. But it's just not like as good as it needed to be. I guess is kind of the way it is. It's not like it's not as bad a sequel though as something like Mass Effect 3, which to me is like one of the worst. Oh. Like the thing with Mass Effect 3 is I didn't even get very far in it. Um my issue with Mass Effect 3 is finding out that everything you did in the previous games was completely pointless. That you just win through a Deus Ex Machina, and that none of the coalition building actually helps you beat the Reapers. Just some Deus Ex Machina called the Conduit or whatever results in you winning the war. And to me, like, the whole point was coalition building. So I think you should have, like, your coalition should have just beaten the Reapers through conventional means. And that would have been a better ending. But instead, you have to use some bullshit. And it just felt like the previous two games were completely pointless if you were going to win by Deus Ex Machina. Um, what well-liked games do you have a negative opinion on and why? Does Skyward Sword count as a well-liked game? Because I thought Skyward Sword was fucking awful. I hated Skyward Sword. I despise Skyward Sword. I don't even know how to explain why. Like, I could do a video on why Skyward Sword sucked. Like, I could do multiple videos on it. It was just really bad. Um, most of the Paper Mario games post uh, Thousand Year Door, I've really resented. Just because I love Paper Mario 1 and 2. They're like two of my favorite RPGs of all time. And just what they wound up producing after they kind of changed it, I thought was just vastly inferior in every way. And whenever I tried to play them, I just wished I was playing Paper Mario 1 or 2. Like how they got rid of partners, how they got rid of what's some of the other stuff they got rid of? They got rid of partners, they got rid of badges, they got rid of most of the RPG elements. Just most of the thing, like a lot of the humor, a lot of the story. I think just most of the things that made uh, Paper Mario kind of the game it was, and made it kind of just so iconic and beloved. And they just make like what is it now, Origami Hero, and just all this other nonsense. I couldn't get into Super Paper Mario. Sorry, dude. I just started playing it and it wasn't like the other paper. I admit I just didn't like it because I felt that it got rid of the traditional Paper Mario games, which I really loved, and that just kind of pissed me off. So I admit I maybe didn't give it a fair chance because of that. So thoughts on Hotel Mario? I mean, what is there to say about Hotel Mario other than all toasters toast toast? I think we can all agree on that one. Super Paper Mario. The Paper Mario commercial was really good. Remember back when video game commercials used to be good? Like the Super Smash Brothers commercial was really good too. There was a bunch of them. Anyone remember OG Super Smash Brothers? I admit I really didn't like Super Smash Brothers Ultimate. My biggest issue with Super Smash Brothers Ultimate is I don't know, I just find like in the later ones the screens just zoomed out so far I can't really see anything. Maybe that's like a really boomer opinion to have, but I just find it very hard to kind of see anything with how far zoomed out it is, and like to actually do fights or play the game. I feel like in Brawl and Melee, the zoom was better, and it was just easier to know like what the fuck was going on. And I can't make. I find that determination very hard to make when I'm playing the newer ones. I also don't like just how many characters that they've shoved in to it, especially since they all get their own select screen. Like they should just make all the Fire Emblem characters like I don't know a stack or something. There's too many Fire Emblem characters. There's too many non-Nintendo characters who shouldn't be in it. Let me just bring this up, and I'm gonna complain about. Okay. Okay, let's go through the list of Super Smash Bros. Characters, and I'll say if they should be in the game or not. Because like a lot of them shouldn't be in the game. Okay, let's see here. Okay, Mario, Luigi, Peach, Bowser, fine. I don't think Dr. Mario should be a separate character. I think he should just be a skin of Mario. Um, I don't think he should be separate. Rosalina, that's good. Also, Rosalina's best girl. Bowser Jr., I don't know if he's really necessary, but okay. Yoshi, yes. Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong, fine. Link, Zelda, Sheik, okay, those are all good. Ganondorf. Young Link shouldn't be in the game. Toon Link shouldn't be in the game. If people want, I'll do a tier list where I go through this. Samus is fine. Zero Suit Samus is just there for sexploitation. I mean, let's be honest. Kirby's fine. Meta Knight's fine. King Dedede's okay. Fox and Valko and Wolf. I just don't see the point. I just hate the Echo Fighters. I don't like it when you have a bunch of characters who are in copies of each other. Okay, Pikachu, Jigglypuff, fine. Mewtwo, good. Pichu shouldn't be in it. Pokemon Trainer's okay, I guess. Lucario, I guess Lucario was okay. Greninja, I guess Greninja's kind of iconic because you had like he was Ash's ace for a while. Okay, I'll allow it. Captain Falcon, Ness, Lucas shouldn't be in it. I guess like the ice. When was the last time they released an Ice Climber game? I guess I'll allow it. Marth, Roy, Ike, Robert, and Lucina. Like just fucking either pick like two of them or just make them separate costumes. There's no need to have that many characters who are the copies of each other. I actually like Ike quite a bit, but like Marth, Roy, and Lucina should just be merged into one character. Corin is questionable, but I guess I'll allow Corin. Mr. Game & Watch is fine. Pit's fine. Palutena is kind of a stretch. Why is Dark Pit a character? Why the fuck is there Dark Pit? Okay, no. Wario, fine. Olimar, fine. Rob, fine. Villager, no. Little Mac, no. Wii Fit Trainer, I guess that's okay. Shulk, no. He's not a Nintendo. Is he a Nintendo character? I don't think it's a first party game. Snake, why is Snake in it? Hasn't there only been like two? I guess there was the original two Metal Gears on NES. Then there was it Twin Snakes. Then there was also what else was there? There was 3D, the one on the 3DS that I played. But Snake shouldn't be in it. I think Sonic's okay because Sonic has been in a lot of games on Nintendo consoles. I just think it set a really, really bad precedent. Mega Man is like borderline because Mega Man's been in a lot of games on Nintendo consoles. I kind of think if they were going to do Mega Man, they should have done like Mega Man Battle Network Mega Man. Pac Man shouldn't be here. Ryu shouldn't be here. Cloud shouldn't be here. Bayonetta shouldn't be here. The Mii character shouldn't be there. Uh, Daisy should just be a skin for Peach. Incineroar shouldn't be there. Dark. So yeah, I think like I might have to do a tier list where I just complain about these. Why the fuck is Joker in Smash Bros? Joker isn't Joke. The only like game that Joker was in, um, was what's it called? Persona Q: The Labyrinth 2, an obscure 3DS game, and that qualifies him to be in Smash Bros. I guess. Why is Ken in this? Why the fuck is Sephiroth in this? Has Sephiroth ever been on a game that's on a Nintendo console? Could someone like clarify for that? Was there like a Kingdom Hearts game that was on a Nintendo console that he was in? Maybe Cloud was in one of them. Maybe that's why he's there. But Final Fantasy is a pretty strictly Sony centric franchise. Why is there Steve from Minecraft? What the fuck is that? Why is there a Minecraft character? Why the fuck is there a Minecraft character in Smash Bros? Kazuya. Who the fuck is Kazuya? What's he from? Tekken. Since when has Tekken been a big, like, Nintendo franchise? Like, to me, I think it. My issues, there's just too many playable characters. I would have preferred if they had just stuck to Nintendo characters and maybe characters from like Nintendo adjacent franchises. Like if I had to pick some other characters, I'd say like Soma would have been okay. Soma Julius Cruz from Castlevania would have made more sense. But it's just like I'm gonna have to do a video where I just go through these and just complain about it. So it's something that irritates me, just how many characters there are, and it's just the whole thing's just coded in shit, and you can't even pick anything out because they're so like the things are so small. Anyways, I think my voice is tired. We will continue this and we'll get into the main war. This kind of took longer than I thought it was going to, but we will continue this later. So God bless everybody. Talk to you all later.